If you don't do things in the rain in Tillamook area, you don't get them done at all. So we left rain or shine. And what did we have? A flat tire in the rain. We've heard word that they've opened the road that's been closed for 10 years. That's between Cape Meares Lighthouse Road and the town of Cape Meares, and that they just recently opened it. So we're going to go up and take a look and see what they've done. We aired the tire up and it looked pretty fair. We got in the vehicle and thought, well, we whipped that one and went only a half mile, and what happened? It went flat again. Only this time I had to crawl under the vehicle and get the spare out and put the spare tire on. After that wet experience, we were both soaking wet, so we decided to go home and do it again another day. And it wasn't just a small rainstorm, it was coming like fury. So we vetoed that, and then we had to go to our home over in the Willamette Valley, so we decided to do that while it was so rainy. And there's water sitting everywhere, running everywhere. Fortunately, our property's all high and dry, where we have no problem with flooding, but next to the road and along some of the roads, they weren't that lucky. We're fortunate enough that our driveway's built up enough that we didn't even have to go through water on our driveway. But when we got out on the main county road, it was a little different situation out there. Our windshield wiper kept working at overtime as we went out on the main county road and headed toward home. All the little creeks and rivers were running at full capacity, which isn't uncommon here in a rainstorm in the middle of winter. The county road was plenty wet, but no real problem right at first. Then we got to the first little creeks, and the water was running over the road, but no big deal. The only thing we had to worry about now is everything's soaked up so much by now that there's bound to be some landslides. We reached Cape Kawanda and really didn't know what to expect here, and we see the ocean's running high. It must be close to high tide, and it was supposed to be a real high tide today, a king tide, I think they call it. And so we're going to go down at the end of the parking lot and park just for a moment. I'd be afraid to leave my vehicle here too long, afraid a big wave bigger than others might come in and soak it with salt water. And so we just pull up in the parking lot sort of toward the upper edge, and I'm going to go down and see what the beach looks like. A brisk sea breeze is stinging my face with the raindrops coming in sideways and hitting it, plus a little sand. And this old seagull, he's not going to take any chances of flying in that kind of weather, although he'll move from one post to another when I get too close. But then he finds kind of a half-sheltered place to stand, and hey, that feels pretty darn good to him. It didn't take me long to see all I wanted to see on the beach in that rain and windstorm, so we get in our nice warm vehicle and head out. We're already seeing some evidence of lowland flooding, but that's no real big deal. When you live here, you get used to that. And so we just head right on through. We've definitely seen much worse than this. Just some little bits of little puddles of water setting along the highway. As we head out, we see more and more puddles of water where it's overflowing the highway, but not really enough to be a problem. We start up the river and we see plenty of water running right at bank level, dark, muddy looking water flowing like fury down to the sea. These streams certainly have their work cut out for 'em, flowing all this flood water down and dumping it in the ocean. Every little trickle of water and every little spring that dumps into the river is running at full capacity. They were peaceful little streams and now they're raging torrents. We came back over here to the coast to finish our remodeling job on the rental house, and then we decided it looked as if it was clearing off, that we'd go and see what the rains really did. So we're going to take off. There's no damage here on our place at all. And so we're going to take off and go down and see if we can get into Pacific City and see what happens. Back over the summit of the little hill that separates us from the ocean, we're heading over to the beach. We go down to the Cape Lookout Junction and decide to go down and see what's happened down at Pacific City and Cape Kiwanda. Oh, what does it say?
Road closed ahead, okay. South of Tierra.
We have a discussion over whether to do it or whether not to do it, but finally I won that one, and we're on our way down to see how it looks down at Pacific City. We see a flashing sign that says the road's closed, and there's still a few lingering puddles of water on the highway, even though the rain has been stopped for a while. Through Terra del Mar, everything basically looks normal as we push on southward toward Cape Kiwanda. All appears normal as we go through Terra del Mar, heading toward Cape Kiwanda. Then we come to the little hill ahead of us where you go up a little higher from the beach and you can look over and see the beach. You can see the wind-blown pines. They all grow like they're leaning toward the leeward side, and that's because the buds dry on the windward side and force the tree to grow only on one side, and so they look like they're almost laying over. Then we come to a sign, and it looks like here's where the road ends and the hike begins, but we're going to go ahead and hike up there as we look at the beach. There's quite a bit of debris on the beach, maybe from the flood. And then we come to the spot where they put a couple huge concrete blocks out in the road and padlocked a chain across it. The road is supposed to have slid completely out up here, according to reports we got. And we got up there and we see what they're talking about. The pavement has caved down and half of the road is missing here. The guardrail has fallen down in the hole as well, and big chunks of pavement are laying down there. This place is has had this kind of slide problems before, and I don't remember just where they were. It could be it was at this spot or another spot, but we look over the edge as we walk along and see even the guardrail is tumbled down, and there's no dirt around the posts at all. They're just setting there, and the guardrail looks like it's still okay. It could probably be disassembled and reattached again. There are many little streams come out of this hill above us, and sometimes they get a bit carried away with themselves and slide out a whole bunch of land, but at least only half the road went. The landslide was very careful not to go over the center line. And there's Marge up there looking out over the slid off part. I told her not to get too close. You never know when some more is going to go. The ocean is roaring in the background as if it were saying, "Hey, don't blame me. It wasn't our fault." But anyway, there's plenty of blame to go around for several different things. That looks like a mess to fill this hole. It's going to take lots of big dump trucks loads of big rock to fill that hole. I expect it'll take a while to get this fixed. They've probably got to get a geologist out here and have them figure out if it's going to just go ahead and slide again after they fix it, or how the best route is to fix this road that sunk off so terribly bad right here. While we were here, we were the only ones here for most of the time, and then here came a girl with a dog walking up over there, and she said she had to walk to work now. Apparently she lived on one side of the Cape and worked on the other side. But anyway, that would be kind of a nice walk with the ocean roaring down below, and you could watch for interesting things to drift in on the beach as you walk to work. So it wouldn't be all that bad. This road will surely be closed for a good long period of time. By the time they figure out how to do it and haul all the rock in and get that guardrail up out of there and then reattach the guardrail, it's going to take a while. So all we can do is be patient. We head back to the car, and we're going to go on up beyond here over Cape Lookout and check and see they supposedly had a slide that had closed the road at Cape Meares, and that road slid every year, and so it has been 10 years now that road's been closed. So we're going to go up and take a look and see the new road they put in. I've never been there since they finished that. Back in our vehicle, and we're going through another water puddle or two, and then we'll go over Cape Lookout and down the other side and over to see the road that they fixed over Cape Meares.
On that.
The road looks fine. over Cape Lookout, and then down the other side and along Netart's Bay. As usual, it's somewhat foggy over Cape Lookout, past Anderson's Viewpoint, which has grown up with little alder trees and stuff so bad you can hardly see, and then we see some little waterfalls cascading their way down to the ocean from Cape Lookout, through another puddle or two of water, and on up to Netart's Bay. Along the bay, we see numerous boats out in the bay, and as near as I can tell, they're out there crabbing, so it must be the crabbing's okay now. Wish I had a boat over here to try it in, but it looks like it might be okay. And then we go through the town of Netarts and up to the town of Oceanside. When we get to Oceanside, we see numerous utility vehicles out working. They must have had quite a bit of damage here from the rain on their utilities, and it's on a hillside anyway. It probably eroded out some of their lines and things, so they're sure working on it here. And we're going past Oceanside. She has her Christmas cards she wanted to mail today, and she thought it would be neat to mail them at the post office at Oceanside. We get into Oceanside and find the post office, and she goes in and mails them at the post office. I hope they stamp them at Oceanside instead of sending them to Portland to get stamped. After the post office, she has to go to the bathroom, and so we go down in the little restroom at Oceanside, right down at the bottom of the hills, and use the restroom. I helped do some of the geology work when we were getting ready to build the restroom when I worked for the parks, and this whole parking lot was at one time a big Indian village. An old crow sits there looking after things, and he wasn't about to fly. It's just not the kind of weather you like to fly in. It's more fun just to sit on the post, and maybe somebody will have a cracker or something. Oh, that sounded good to him. At the time I worked for the parks, this whole parking lot was just a gravel parking lot, and under it was a huge shell mound where the shells were piled about 7 feet deep in some areas, where the Native Americans shucked the shells and lived here at that time. And so I helped do the geology work to find out about putting a restroom there and paving over it. But it's okay to pave over a village site as long as you don't disturb it. So they were able to pave it, and they built a new restroom just above where the village site was. Then we go on up to Cape Meares Park, and we're going to see what happened to the roadway over Cape Meares. So we looked and see that the old road was still closed over Cape Meares, but just before you get to where it had washed out, there was a brand new road had been built going over Cape Meares, bypassing the slide. No wonder it took them 10 years. In this road over Cape Meares, they didn't just fix the old road where it slid out every single year. It slid out. They built an entire new road over a mountain here. And wow, is it a nice road, right through an old cut down forest and up over the top of the mountain. And then it'll join the road down on the other end. but wow, is it fancy. They really got a neat road over Cape Meares, and I hope it doesn't decide to slide, and I don't think it will. It looks like it's on good solid earth. There's a thicket of trees on the other side, some of them that haven't even been touched by a chainsaw, and up over the summit and down the other side, down toward Meares Lake. And it'll join the old road just before Meares Lake and come out at the exact same place that the old road used to come out. A little bit of fog hangs on the hilltops as we carefully move down this new road for the first time, and we see signs all over the place to watch out for the elk. The elk have moved in all these areas. Even where we live, the elk have moved into our yard, and the people over here say they see them all the time. And I've seen sign of them where they've been laying on the pavement in Cape Meares Park, and there used to never be elk there, but they've spread out to where they're pretty widespread over along the coast now. I really like seeing the elk over here at our place, and they're great lawnmowers, and not only are they great lawnmowers, they're a lawnmower with the potential of being darn good eating. There's a little bit of fog hanging on the hilltops, still trying to burn off as we head down to Cape Meares Lake, past the water treatment plant for the town of Cape Meares, and on down to Meares Lake. And there it is, Meares Lake ahead of us. I knew a truck driver that came down with a loaded truck full of rock, and his brakes failed, and so he went right in the lake at the boat ramp, and it was, at least no one was hurt. It was okay. There is one of the egrets, and he's looking for a fish. He stands motionless, and he's a fisherman with more patience than any fisherman I've ever seen. He just stands there and waits and waits. And if a fish comes by, he just tries to make the illusion, hey, I'm just a white stick sitting here. Don't worry about it. Come on in closer. And when he moves real slow and real deliberate and real careful as he watches for that all-important fish. And if the fish is a little on the larger side, he'll catch it. Just grab a hold of the side of the fish and bring it up out of the water, and then he'll throw it in the air and grab it head first and swallow it head first. And he's an expert at that. He can do that every single time. But we waited for a while, hoping one would come by, but no fish came by and volunteered. The water's pretty high in the lake, and that probably had the fish kind of upset today. But Meares Lake is a nice little lake. And when we lived here, we used to do a lot of fishing and duck hunting in Meares Lake. Well, that bird isn't going to catch a fish right now, so we'll just go on and maybe we can catch him on the way back. And so we just go down and take a look at the old town of Cape Meares. And it's real close to the ill-fated town of Bay Ocean that went bankrupt and washed out not a whole long time ago. I wouldn't want to be here if a tsunami would come along. I hope they have a good warning system to warn you when to get out of there. And I think you'd want to have a vehicle standing by ready to take you to high ground in a hurry. This place is just above sea level, and you can see the sticks and stuff the ocean's cast up on the beach here as we turn around and head back out of this little town. In the late 1960s, when we were looking for property here on the coast, we looked at some property here, and anyway, it cost more than where we ended up buying, and I was just a little bit nervous about being so darn close to the ocean, but it looks like the houses have withstood it, and it's been okay. Then it's back up along Meares Lake, and that can be fairly good fishing at times. I always enjoyed fishing there, and we used to hunt ducks along this area too. There's a dock you can walk out on and go fishing, and then there's what they call the Dike Road, and we used to hunt duck along that Dike Road, and we did pretty well at it. From Meares Lake, we follow along Tillamook Bay, setting a course right along the edge of the bay till we get up to the town of Tillamook. We see a little bit of still flooded farmland as we go along the bay, and then across the Tillamook and Trask rivers and into the town of Tillamook, and then it'll be home from there on. There's a field that's flooded pretty good, and all the waterfowl and seagulls and everything are out in these flooded fields. There's some of these fields they grew corn in, and boy, are the ducks and geese loving that. They must be getting fat on some of that corn that was left as we head down 101, heading home. Thanks for watching, and I do hope some of you can take a moment and subscribe. We definitely need subscribers on this channel in order to make it succeed. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.